Yeah, that's.
Flowers, it's a new policy. We're gonna have flowers.
What's that? Gonna call the Katuitt Fire District Prudential Committee meeting of May 13th, 2024 to order. We'll do a roll call. Ray? Present. Mark?
Present.
Seth?
Present.
Graham, present.
Present.
Charlie's present. Can we stand for the pledge of allegiance, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Thank you. To inquire if there's any public comment.
I'm trying to find chat. Hold on. I do not see any chat or raised hands at all.
So the first item I put on the agenda is a review of the special district, meeting and how that went.
The Article 1, which was the article, the $1.1 million for demolition, by raise or borrow, which required a 2/3 majority, did not reach the 2/3 majority. It was 59% favor. That was 128 yeas, 90 nays. Check my math, but I think that comes out to 59%. Article 2 was amended to drop the last paragraph relating to a special meeting, which council advised could only be called by the Prudential Committee, or I believe one of the other commissions as well. But in any event, that was deleted. And it was also amended to make clear that village were seeking no more than the amount indicated or remaining in Article 21-17, and that passed. And thank you to the Federal Church for hosting this.
Well, so what I wanted to discuss was the sign-in for people, to start with that. That seemed like a fairly confused process.
Yes, and I don't know, John might speak to that for you. He and I have both agreed to go back to the other way, but also we'll have probably about 6 notebooks instead of what we've done in the past 3. They won't be segmented, and they will be in the ring binders. There was a big traffic problem.
So my suggestion is to do what they do, well, what the town does when we come to vote, and you walk in and they list, A through F streets.
That's what was done this time, and it was the biggest problem.
Well, that's because I think.
Well, it went bunched up into one line, because we know that there were 2 lines. So
Yeah.
then people who would have otherwise got counted forgot to move through, just waiting, and then we're like, oh, wait, I could have gone through that.
Yeah, so those signs need to be bigger. If you live at A through F, come over to this person. And if somebody who doesn't live at A through F, they'll have everything in the binder in front of them.
Here's the problem with doing that. Neighbors come together in groups. So all of a sudden you have everyone on Putnam in one table and the other street desks are empty. We need to use all the personnel all the time. So anyway, I think John and I have, and arranging the tables the way they used to be, one long table in front instead of a narrow corridor. We'll definitely improve it though.
Okay.
Does it need to be done by scrutiny or?
Yes.
That's how the town prints out the voter lists.
That's because it's, you have to be owner of a property. A full-time resident and owner of property.
Yeah, but you could come in there and say, my name is Parks, I live on so-and-so street, and they go P for Parks, and then find you on the street.
But they,
We don't print it out, and they won't print it out that way for us, is that?
No.
what-
Charlie's the one that supplies them.
That's the way that the town has it.
They have it. Do they print it out for you, or do they send it you electronically?
Electronic.
So it can be sorted
It's a,
by,
it's a PDF.
Yeah.
So they I don't know why the town does it that way, but it could be they generate this list based on how owners, owners of houses. John Gardner is raising his hand. Maybe he,
I think it's the way the state wants them to
Okay.
do it.
anyway, that's the way they've always come. And
not working.
Yeah, it does work.
it,
Well, except for the fact we started coming in 40 minutes late. That's what I mean by it's not working. It's accuracy, of course, is critically important. But it seems like, in the annual district meetings start usually a half an hour.
John has his hand raised, and he's the one who changed the system this time. So I
Yeah.
thought you had something to say.
I do. And I apologize for the delay. Can you hear me all right?
Hold on, I'm going to, you can hear me, but, oh,
Yes. I did unmute myself.
just,
Okay.
can you hear it? It's not coming
Yes,
on.
I can hear you. I just hope you can hear me. I apologize for that, and I realized that the meeting was about a half an hour delayed because of but keep in mind, there were close to 300 people there.
Yeah.
So comparing that meeting to even a presidential election where they're registering the voters as they come in is it's oranges and apples. But I will take the negative credit for changing the system. Moving forward, what I did learn was that it was helpful. John Amento, one of the Katuitt firefighters, actually took on the role himself and helped out tremendously by asking people as they came in the door, what's your street address, street name? And he helped to direct the people. So I will do my best to have somebody there wherever the meeting is going to be held. And I hope that we can know that in advance, whether it's Freedom Hall or the church. And we'll have somebody there that will do the job that John Amento was doing that afternoon. He did speed things up considerably by doing that. Because putting a sign on a table that's blocked by people standing in front of that table does not help one bit. And in order to eliminate that, you'd have to put the sign about 6 feet in the air behind the people registering those coming in to get their red cards. If we want to do that, we just have to figure out the logistics to it. So I will do whatever you folks ask me to do. And I can guarantee you that the next meeting will be registered a lot smoother than the last meeting.
Well, what about this? What about if we have in our announcements and in our scheduling of the thing, we say, check-in so meeting to begin at 7. Check-in beginning at 6. And then say, like, for instance, I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking from a customer service perspective. If people come, they may be like, oh, well, I'm gonna go and get my card, and then I'm gonna go down, I live down the street, I'm gonna walk out, I'm gonna come back. Or they'll come in and stagger themselves out so that they won't. If you just have it open for an hour prior to when the meeting actually commences.
Yep, sounds
Can
good.
they leave the building with their, and then come back?
Well, regardless of whether they leave the building, but what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Well, that was my, for instance.
they
But
have to recheck in.
you can open it up so that it's not, you're not relying solely on people saying, well, oh, 5 minutes is plenty of time. I'll be down there and it'll be great. But that's what everybody does. And therefore, that's why we have a log jam. If we were doing it an hour ahead of time, then people might, especially knowing what they've experienced, they might come down early and then be like,
It's like voting.
right. Yeah.
What most people do is show up 10 minutes or
Yeah,
5 minutes before. So you have a rush
Right.
and they're not gonna spread out.
Well, you never know. They could, if we say, due to, high voter turnout, we expect, long lines.
Well,
It can't hurt. I mean, anything we can do, 35 people, well, the votes reflected that 35 people left between the first vote and the second vote. And we only had 2 articles. So it just, and from personal anecdotes, friends of ours in their 90s, I just can't stay this long. And, that just doesn't seem fair, depending on who was advocating for the second or third or 23rd warrant. I do think that, if we need to put signs 6 feet above so that people can see them, then we need to do that. Because certainly with the fire station remodel on the agenda, I've got to think that it's going to be extremely well attended, maybe not as much as the special district meeting, but we should assume another big crowd.
I would say so.
John, whatever you can do, is greatly appreciated. It's a problem.
but if they leave the building, they're gonna have to check in again when they come back.
That was, as I said, just me being whimsical. It wasn't, I don't intend for them to come and go. But I think that if it wouldn't, it's better than saying, well, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas and we're just gonna do it the same way that we've
Yeah,
always done it.
I agree. That way, it has not worked.
So the other thing I wanted to, make a comment about was when, Patty and, Lally Lloyd came up. Spent 30 minutes arguing about reversing the order of the items on the warrant. John, I know you were being very nice, but you're basically as the moderator. And, just, they should have been given the answer once and then told to sit down. Because, they held up the meeting. That's my opinion.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean.
no, there we are. Now we,
I'll tell you that she was, and to use her identifying word, she was blindsided by the fact that she was gonna have 20 minutes to present.
Oh, God.
yeah, that was too bad. That did come up. We did discuss that at one of our Prudential committee meetings. In retrospect, the fire department was on that meeting, but I'm not sure that anyone from, advocating the second article was on. So that was too bad. They were caught flat-footed, and I feel bad about that.
They've been talking about this for 3 years. And I'm sorry, but if you've been talking about something for 3 years, I think you should be able to get up and give a brief synopsis of what you've been thinking about using the school for.
Well, in any event, they were able to carry the day in the
Yeah.
vote, so.
And the other thing is, I'd like to discuss removing, I can't remember what article it is, but I think it's 24, the article that we put on the annual district meeting regarding the demolition of the school. I'd like to take a vote to decide to remove that from the annual district meeting warrant.
I'm in favor of that, assuming that the proponents of the special district meeting Article 2 are likewise willing to withdraw their identical motion, which is on for the annual district meeting.
Well, that can't be voted on anyway, because it's no change from what was on the special district meeting, right? They didn't change the article at all. So you know, that to do that, you'd need a vote to reconsider, which had to be done at the time of the special district meeting. So that's, plus they said they were gonna pull it. But Ray said that if we use the one that's on the warrant, you know, that's gonna affect the tax rate by 24 cents, something like that, per thousand. And that's, you know, to demo the building as opposed to,
To raise and appropriate to demo the building.
yeah, as opposed to, if it was a bond, you said 6 cents for a bond. If we bonded the demo of the building,
Yeah. What about, yes, if we did that, the tax effect for next year would be zero, because you don't pay it for another year.
yeah. So,
Is there any way you could amend the article to, present an amendment at the meeting, change raise to appropriate to borrow and try it again? That's really what I'd recommend.
Yeah, this has been voted on.
yeah, it's been voted on. You know, they're just gonna,
Yeah, but I think, stand back and say, there was a substantial majority for demolishing the building. That's fact number one. It could be through ignorance or misunderstanding that they didn't appreciate the difference in funding and the impact. I think if they were aware, gee, 24 cents versus nothing, I want to take that building down.
you know, I think, if we'd asked for a recount, of the vote at the special district meeting, you know, I think that would have been appropriate, and we could explain that would have been the time to explain, you know, the cost. But I don't think that it's appropriate to do that at the annual district meeting.
We have another bite of the apple at the Civic Association. And if you guys vote to withdraw it, then I can't present those at the Civic Association. And that might be the time to educate the folks on the different impact of their decision.
Well, if we vote at this meeting to withdraw, and we're talking about, just to be clear, Article 25 for the annual district meeting, presumably that does not happen until the annual district meeting.
Right.
Okay, so you can educate people at the Civic Association meeting. But if we vote here, and again, I am in favor of withdrawing Article 25 as long as it is crystal clear that Article 26 is also withdrawn or otherwise null and void.
Yeah, it's null and void. Right, it's null and void.
Yeah.
She knew that she had to amend that article at the annual district meeting, in the same fashion that they amended it at the special district meeting. I confirm that with her.
Okay, so subject to that, I move that we vote to withdraw Article 25 from the annual district meeting.
Second,
Now, well, before we vote, debate. So couldn't we, as you say, shouldn't we not withdraw it until the meeting in order to allow Ray to have his ability to go up and talk about
We're just.
we're voting to do it at the meeting.
We're
not
voting to
doing
do
that
it
now.
at the meeting, yeah.
So
but I
we're
don't think-
resolving to remove it at the meeting. Could we not just do that then, or do we have to do that now? Is that a-
no, we don't have to do it now. We can do it then.
Then maybe we don't need a vote at
No,
all.
we don't need a vote.
We'll just do it on the night.
Assume we're gonna do it at the meeting, we're in
Yeah,
consensus on that,
I think so. I
okay?
don't think, I mean, but that's my opinion. I don't know what the legal opinion is.
Yeah, you can't withdraw it right now anyways.
Right, it would just be like a resolve to withdraw. I don't
Yeah.
think it's- I mean,
All right, So at the annual district meeting, we are going to, move to withdraw Article 25 on the understanding that Article 26 will be null and void as well. Do we want to do anything with respect to Articles 22 and 23, which relate to repurposing funds? Are those repurposing funds to, well, as we put it here, to be available for funding the final disposition of the Katuitt Elementary School? That being in some doubt now, should we just hold off on that, or? will we
No, I
proceed?
think we keep that,
Yes,
because those funds, if they aren't repurposed, they're gonna go into free cash.
Okay,
and
Okay.
so I would definitely keep both of those,
okay,
particularly 22.
okay.
And did you want to talk about, Barnstable Land Trust?
Yeah, I mentioned, Seth, I mentioned this to Fran. The Barnstable Land Trust is, let's see, which article is it?
This is our $50,000 that we were trying to give over to the. Is that what we're, is that what we're, that's on this, one, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
For the property next to Capizzi.
Yeah, so that's a good summary. So the, I'm concerned about this. Just to sum up, the Barnstable Land Trust, made an offer which was accepted to
Right.
purchase the property you just described on Route 28. It was accepted the morning they came to us. And I listened to our recording again, and the statement was along the lines of, so we're looking for somewhere around $50,000 from you.
I thought it was specifically 50,000.
That's
That's the way I heard it, maybe.
They,
but-
they came to $50,000,
Yes.
but, yeah. The water department clearly has the ability to, protect the water supply and to purchase property to do so. The problem, this seems like an after the fact, it doesn't seem like it is an after the fact donation to the Barnstable Land Trust. They're already doing the deal. They're gonna get a conservation restriction that's gonna run with the land forever.
Right.
You know, granting us to be co-signatories to the conservation restriction is beside the point.
Right. I remember this when we talked about it and debated it,
Because
because you were of the opinion that it wasn't. And there was no surety, there was no value in the conservation, that we didn't get anything material from our investment.
for the
And we
$50,000.
likened it to the, then you guys likened it to the
Bob,
Lowell Park.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
but Lowell Park, Barnstable Land Trust and our water district and other entities were all working together in advance of that purchase.
right,
This is after the fact. Gee, we did a nice thing for you.
well,
Can you give us a donation?
it's the after the fact for the Prudential Committee. It's not after the fact because the water commissioners apparently approved it.
so is it their article?
Did they, or did they come to us with it?
They didn't come to us.
I think that was,
Well, they have to come to us, which is why they did.
well, they came to explain was it submitted by the water commissioners, that article? Because did they come to try and have us say, we recommend this?
Yes.
And that's what we did say, we did recommend it?
Well, you know, we voted on all of the warrants at the same time. You
Right.
kind of
No, we
up or down.
didn't, you didn't vote for that. So we recommended it because two of us voted to recommend it.
Okay, I thought that's, all right.
But then, yeah, because that was the same night we talked at length about the septic system scenario.
Yeah, right.
And then when I said, well, we don't need to put this on the warrant because you can put it on the warrant. Wasn't that when we had that conversation with Scott Horsley?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to try to piece this all together all at once. So what do you want to do? You want to not recommend it?
I want to not recommend it.
Oh.
And you'll have to, when it comes up, you'll have to discuss your reasons why you don't want it.
I mean, for me, I voted to recommend it because I think that I was. I don't know, I think it is somewhat akin to the Lowell Park. But is it also somewhat akin to the idea of the water commissioners now taking a whole new approach to their use of funds for water protection? Like, I understand what you mean. You know what I mean? That's kind of that same thing. So while we can protect the water by seeding the clouds to make more rain so that it will float to, you know, it's like whatever kind of.
But, you know,
Scenario
I
you
think
wanna.
it's, I may not be being perfectly clear, but I think it's a problem with our enabling legislation.
Right.
We, you know, the Historical Society came and accurately, you know, identified that they would need a change in the enabling legislation to have us give them money once or annually. And I think this is the same kind of thing. It's an after the fact request for a donation rather than a proactive.
except that both the town of Barnstable and the Katuitt Fire District are going to be the signatories on the conservation restrictions.
Which is great.
So, you know,
We
so
don't have-
means three entities are involved. Which are those? Barnes, I don't think Barnstable Land Trust, it abuts their land. But they won't be holding any of the conservation restrictions. It'll be the town and the Katuitt Fire District.
Either way, whether it's the Barnstable Land Trust or the town of Barnstable, whoever holds it, the property cannot be
Right, yeah,
developed, period, whether we are signatories or not. I guess if they had come to us and said, hey, we're thinking of buying this property, will you contribute? That would be a different thing.
see, I think they went to the water commissioners with that.
All right, I think I will raise the issue at the annual district
I think
meeting then.
that's, why not? You might as well. I mean, it's gonna, I don't think, I mean, I don't believe our recommendation really means a whole heck of a lot to most of the people who are voting on this. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think it's true. And, you know, we make symbolic attempts to say, we think this is a bad idea. Yeah, mostly they pass when we do that.
But I think
Right? I mean.
that one was about salaries and I think that got a motion.
Yeah,
What we did with the Historical Society thing too.
well, they
And
just,
then there were others,
but
but you know what I mean. That's me being a cynic, I guess.
You know, the last one, when we recommended not approving the water department
Right.
budget, it was ultimately approved, but there was a, you know, substantial number of people who
Right,
voted against
spirited
it
debate.
in a spirited debate, which I think is, you know, an important purpose of what we do.
Has, district council opined on whether this is a purchase or a contribution?
no. And he's away now.
He's away for like 10 days, so he'll be back before the end of
I'll
this.
contact him before the annual district meeting to get his,
All right, I'd like to hear what he says.
and then we're gonna have.
Didn't they speak with him about it though? No, they didn't. Meaning the water commissioners didn't speak with him about it? No, might have been, I suppose.
Yeah, that clearly what Mark has to say is important for
Yeah.
the analysis.
So the only other thing is, I started working on getting information about engaging an architect for the Katuitt School.
How much can we spend before we have to go through any bidding? It's 50,000
Before you have to go
before
to
we have to go to the RFP process.
50,000.
Yeah,
So we can independently engage someone for $50,000 or less for that study, if they say,
Over 10, you have to have 3 bids.
right,
yeah.
So you could
So
give it
between-
for under 10.
10, between 10 and 50 would be 3 bids.
Right.
So then do we get somebody for 10 to come in and tell us how much can we get done for $10,000? Probably not much.
On the other hand, for $50,000, with the Habib report, either as the basis, you give it to another architectural firm
Right.
and say you can rely on this and you know, these are the materials, or you have Habib continue it, hopefully with the same people who inspected it 4 years ago.
Right.
That seems like that would be very valuable. There seems to be, people don't like the Habib report, but I think it's not because it's not detailed.
Doesn't say what they want.
It doesn't say what they want.
Right. So you know what I think we should do? Sorry, right, you first. Well, what I think we should do is we should establish an ad hoc committee. And we should tell them how much they have, because what am I, like you, me and Mark are gonna sit here and say to an architect, we wanna see A, B, C. We don't really care to see A, B, or C, but those people who do wanna see what A, B, C, D, and E. Are we the right people?
Wait,
Yes,
what are the A, B, C's and D's?
That's the eventualities, like, we're not gonna go and say, like you said, we can use the Habib report as a framework. But there has to be an end result in mind in order for anything to be generated.
So,
We have our marching instructions from their warrant article.
Right,
So we don't need an ad hoc committee.
right.
This is our job to do, not an ad hoc. You can't,
No, but an ad hoc committee is an advisory committee. So if they can come up with, what I'm trying to say is that I don't want to do that actual bit of it. Do you know what I'm saying? That I think we already have agreed that this is not something that we as a committee want to do. Right?
unfortunately,
gotta do it right.
But we've got to do it right. So for both sides of it. So if we form some committee that they can do their thing. And then, but they're not gonna be able to do anything on their own. That we're ones that are responsible for the yes or no of the appropriation for a given thing.
Yes.
Then we'll have the purse strings and the oversight, but we don't have to meet every 3 times a month to go over and do you know what I'm saying? Don't you see?
we're not gonna be meeting 3
No,
times a
you
month.
don't imagine that happening?
No, I
No.
don't.
I agree with Fran on this. If we do a request for proposal.
That's down the line.
We'll say, we will do 2 meetings. And that is the person we hire will do 2 meetings to get input from the community. And
Oh,
people will come in, let me just finish, and give their thoughts as to, because we're still at, it could be a gym, it could be a community center, it could be a yoga studio, it could be anything. We're not gonna be able to get a good answer from an architectural firm unless we know. You need a specific question to get a specific answer.
Well, that's what I'm
we
saying.
have specific questions. That's what I'm saying. We have specific questions in the article. We can't have people come in here and add to it.
They're not
No,
gonna,
that's not
they're
what
not
I'm
gonna
saying.
add to the article, but at some point, we need to know. Do we just want to tear down everything except the gym? Is that what we want? Because then you can ask an architectural firm that, and they'll give you a decent decent in the sense of,
Can you pull up the exact language of the warrant, or the article?
yeah.
The thought that I had was when I looked at the report. 30 years ago, I was in the HVAC business, so I know a little bit about that.
Right.
And to that report, one of the biggest items was the heating plant,
Right.
which as I looked at it, you would demo it and go to what we call package units.
Right.
And you'd probably put them on the roof to minimize the ducting. If you got a contractor to review that report with the idea, and you could give them parameters like knock down the cross, keep the core in the gym. Tell me how much it's gonna take to make that livable,
Right.
usable. He can go through that report, take a look at a line item and say, I wouldn't do it that way, I would do this.
Right.
And I think you could get that done quickly and for under $50,000.
Right. Well, that's the kind of thing we should be doing.
Well, the only
I
problem,
agree with that, except that for the parts. So what do we
Well,
want?
there's
Do we
that.
want just the gym? Do we want the entire thing? Do we want the entire thing except for the 1970s add-on? What are we asking the architectural firm
And
to do?
I think you have to make at least some decisions. And if you give them the parameters of the 4 classrooms, I'm looking at the building like this and there's a T. You demo the T, keep these classrooms in the gym. And you say, that's what I want you to fix. Demo this, tell me what the mitigation is, leave this. Now you can get in, you get into a meeting quibbling about, oh no, I want to keep that, I don't want to keep that. But at least you have something that you can go to the taxpayers and say, if you want to do that, that's how much it's gonna
Right.
cost.
So Ray, I completely agree with that, except for the part where a year from now or 6 months from now, people are saying, you didn't do the right study. We need to do it all over again
Well, I think
because
that's inevitable.
you picked
Well, that's what I
what
mean
you
when I
wanted
say,
to remain with the building, and that's not what we want.
How many people are gonna say?
My guess is there are 91 people there, my guess is like 90.
You know, we have to keep enough of the building to put in handicap toilets. And in order to do that, that building's gonna have to be restructured because none of them, the toilets aren't big enough to comply. They have to be, you have to be able to turn a wheelchair around in a handicap toilet. And you can't even turn a baby buggy around in the things in the school. So I just think you're making this, I think we are better getting advice from architects that know what they're doing. On top of that, who's gonna write the RFP? If we do this, then the architects will write the RFP, the request for proposal. I mean,
but we don't even know what to ask.
We don't know what to
That's
ask.
my thought.
I don't understand why I don't understand why you don't know what to ask.
Just study the.
Because we don't know what part of the building they want to keep.
No, they want to know, we know they want the gym. And other parts of that building is gonna have to be kept for heat and water. Because the entire plumbing system needs to be removed. They are considering having childcare in that building, which means the lead has to be removed.
But
So if they want childcare, that's more than just the gym.
They have to have more than just the gym because they have to have, it has to be handicap accessible.
How much more?
Well, I think they probably have to keep, at least 2 sets of, the first 2 classrooms on either side.
You may be right. I think if we run out and do this study and they're like,
well, it just says so for instance, to study the feasibility and estimate the cost of restoring and rehabilitating all or a portion of the former Katuitt Elementary School at 140 Oyster Road, for the use of the district residents, funding professional analysis of the building for potential reuse and potential recreational and other use of the grounds, and for the authors of said study to present the findings. So that's, I think, incredibly vague and ambiguous in terms of what we could do. Like, we could have 5 different studies done based on what it says there and still have other.
I don't think it's vague.
If the building's demoed, then part of the demo is going to be restoring that site with dirt and loam and grass and some trees if you want some trees, but other people want to put a playground there and they want picnic tables and they have to do. We can't. You have a group of people come in here and you ask them what.
Well, we don't
want
want to do that.
Well-
What I'm thinking of when I say an ad hoc committee, and the only reason I said that is just because I personally do not want to be doing the nuts and bolts of this particular process because I don't believe it's a worthwhile way for us to spend our time. I think that it's, moreover, I think it's unlikely that when we arrive at the time where we get a dollar figure, that this is even gonna be a thing. Because I think we're gonna have a big enough, I think that we're gonna see what the appetite is for multi-million-dollar capital improvement spending is for the fire district in 2 weeks when we go to the district meeting for this fire station, which I'm not convinced is gonna get through the district meeting. So all those things being, all things being equal, I think it's important that we not belabor this. But we know exactly what we're trying to do before we start paying people to do it.
I think it's important that we follow exactly what they want.
Agreed.
Discuss that with, we'll obviously have to get 3 architects in and, give them information and come in and make presentations to us. And, you know, and then that will be part of their job, is to narrow it down and make it more specific.
If a request for proposal needs to happen, that is the Prudential Committee, unfortunately, needs to do that, unfortunately.
What about
because it would be-
our procurement officer that we interviewed?
Yes, I know, yeah.
Because the time to hire her and start paying her to do this stuff.
I would be amenable to that.
Well, I think, you know, I think we need to start with getting 3 firms to come in and talk to us.
Great.
And that you can get a lot of information about what they would think that they're gonna do from that.
But, and the one, I do agree with Ray, though, that if we know what the envelope is, we're not gonna, I don't wanna get tangled up in what programs, what this, what that, but just the envelope, like, what is the thing, the shape of the thing? That's what I'm talking about.
I agree, but we don't know what the thing is, the envelope is.
Well, you have to decide if that's a decision. That, you have to decide is that a decision that we're gonna make? Because, you know, that's directed at us to do that, basically that said we decision. Or are we gonna, you know, ask, you know, however many people, how much of the building they wanna keep?
I don't think you ask people how much of the building they want to keep, but you may need to ask people, what do you want to do with the building? And therefore,
They want us to find out what they can do with the building. That's part of this.
you can do anything with the building for enough money. I don't know that that's,
Yeah, Ray?
Don't we still have the legal question of what we legally can do under the existing
Enabling
enabling
Act.
legislation?
There is that.
yes, we do.
And it has to be something, it has, as far as Mark was able to find out when he did all of his investigating on that, it has to be something that's connected to water or fire. What they can do with the building.
Unless we have a fully code compliant building that we lease, in a long-term lease to someone for a purpose,
Yeah.
outside of our,
No,
but how could that, I thought that's what I understood to be.
no, whatever the use is, it has to, rent it or not, it has to be for fire, associated with fire or water, because that's all we're allowed to do.
I think there was an argument made at the special district meeting, the kind of general public welfare was enough. I completely disagree with that. That's just wishful thinking. I think the advocates for this further study have it in mind that, yeah, we're probably gonna need a change in the enabling legislation, but should we even try that before we know how much it would cost? That's what I'm thinking. The only thing I would add about that is if you go to Kip Diggs and say, hey, 59% of people at this meeting voted to demolish the building, you know, immediately, but if you want to see if you can change our enabling legislation, you know, it just seems like a surefire way to cheese off 59% of the Katuitt voters, at least the voters at that meeting.
Yeah.
So it is a huge problem.
Well, I think that, I can't, you know, what are they gonna want? 6 classrooms? That's the main part of the, once you get past the gym, that's all the way down to the end of the building.
I don't know.
So,
I
you
mean,
know,
I suppose we can go to a firm and say, how much does it cost to knock down the 1970s edition? How much does it cost to knock down one half of the L? How much does it cost to, you know, and
Yeah.
rehabilitate you can go to them with like 5 different scenarios. Maybe you don't need to know what they would,
So
although everything needs to be, as you say, to code compliance,
Yeah.
you know, you assume.
it's a commercial building, so it's gonna have to be 100% to all the building codes and health division codes
Right.
in the town of Barnstable.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are questions?
There's a lot of, there are hands raised.
Well, we've done. Oh, then it is. Well, just quickly.
Can we go to public comment and then come back?
Yeah,
All right, I think we probably need public comment.
All right, Carol says, so the hand raised.
she's on.
She's just,
Hi, it's Carol. Let me put my face on here. Very interesting conversations. Great to hear. My first comment is I would have been at Freedom Hall tonight, but the agenda did not have Freedom Hall listed or the address. So it appeared that it was only a Zoom meeting. So I've gone back through a couple of the agendas and it usually says, Freedom Hall plus the Zoom information. This just included Zoom information. So if you could please be very clear on the agenda. I think most of us that have signed in might have been in attendance. That's my first thing. Second, I love the idea of an ad hoc committee, Seth. I think it's a great way to get the due diligence done on what is really wanted by the community by holding this group like the school committee group used to be. This group could do more deep diving into the community, surveying them, holding workshops like the town of Barnstable is doing for the Marston's Mills property, and do the work to find out what it is that this community will come together on, as well as the work for what the site would look like and the uses of the site after demolition. So there's a bunch of questions. It's not just a monetary issue. The question I think that's very important is to find out where the community wants to go with this use-wise, and or use of it after a demolition. So those are the 2 points that I wanted to make. And I just want to make a correction that the attendance at the special district meeting was only 239. That's not close to 300. So I will let someone else speak. Thank you.
Heather Bailey has her hand raised. I'm asking her to unmute.
Thank you, and let me turn my camera on. Okay, hi. Thanks, and I do want to just echo Carol's comment about the meeting notice. So it did appear that this was not live, and I agree also with the comment here that the Zoom link that you provided on the agenda is not working. I had to retype it in to get into this meeting. So there's that. So we can fix that for later, I'm sure. With respect to the study of the school, I would be happy, Mark, to reach out and talk to you about the potential process for withdrawing articles. And I do want to have a chat with some folks that I've been working with, but happy to have a conversation with you about that going forward. Secondly, as to the potential RFP, I agree with Carol that Seth, I think, and a small ad hoc committee is a great idea. I can tell you what we did here in our meeting in January, which was that, yes, almost everybody who came through there, and it was January, so it was not a ton of people, but they wanted to keep the gym and the kitchen. And I think there's like 8 classrooms that are not part of the 1970s edition. Some are a portion of those. So I agree with Mark Lynch that, I think we can easily come up with a handful of scenarios that we might ask an architect to take a look at and get some better ideas about what the cost of that is. And finally, we did want to use that study to help us have a discussion with the community about what they might want to do with the school building going forward. And I think part of that has to do with understanding the costs of rehabbing all or a part of the building. I don't think anybody's talking about using the whole thing. But just to give us some time to have that process to get that public input like the town is doing with the Marston's Mill School. So that is all I have to say, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
No, the town's just doing it with the Marston's Mills property since the school is gone. They're
Excuse
not
me, the school
discussing
property.
the school property, correct?
I stand corrected.
So
I do think
I
they
guess-
started with the community though, before they demolished it.
They did.
They're having meetings. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry, Carol, but that building has been on the list to be demolished for almost 10 years. It's not like they just decided the year before it was demolished that it was going to be demolished. It's been on on the capital improvement plan for a very long time to be demolished.
I'm not, I was remembering, and I could have it wrong, that it wasn't a discussion about whether it was going to be demolished, but what they would like to do with the property. So I thought they had had discussions about that before the demolition, as well as the continued ones that are going on now. But I don't have my facts in front of me.
To respond to Patty's comment, I for one would be delighted if you guys, and I mean you guys being the people who advocated for the special district article, came to us to say, yeah, our consensus is we want to keep the gym and the kitchen and 5 of the classrooms. That, now we're going somewhere. Now we can get an architectural firm to say, if we want to demo this, we want to keep that, we want it to code. What is that gonna cost? But I think at least if we, the Prudential Committee, make that decision, someone's gonna be unhappy.
Somebody's
It's
gonna
too
be
much, it's too little, it's not the right size for what we want. If you come to us and say, this is what we want, this is the consensus, we figured this out, then we're on the road. But I look at that as your responsibility.
I agree.
There's a question from Kathleen O'Neill. She's asked, the language of the article included a cost estimate of demolition, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And then she's added a comment, can we clarify who pays for the renovation? I thought it was going to be a 501c3 raising funds, not taxpayers.
Correct. The taxpayers will be paying for the demolition of the building, period.
I think this is Kathleen, she's saying that wasn't my question, so I don't know what that means. And Harold says, has another comment. At least that's what the latest chat says.
Does she want to speak again?
Yes, please. Mark, I wanted to, and Seth and Fran, sorry, I'm using first names. I think that you have a group of people that will work with the community on your behalf, but this is what it's all about, like to get the information and have the workshops. And I really feel that the inclusion of the community and transparency of doing all this by having a ad hoc committee like you did for the school committee, you called it, where you guys did the negotiations, et cetera, I think is really important to getting to a final decision about what happens with the school. We understand the money, we understand the costs, that's not the issue. The issue is how can we best use it, either as a building, a part of a building, or as a park? And what would the cost be around doing that? And what would that park look like? I mean, there's all sorts of questions that I feel the community is asking. And so I highly support Seth's concept. And you guys can have people send in their information about what value added they would have to this group, or whatever, or be a part of it, have the commissioner from water, commissioner from fire, commissioner from Prudential, as well as these ad hoc community members, and really get a go at it and show the community that you really want to hear a final results, that they would make a recommendation to you.
You know what,
That's going to take forever, Carol. I mean, that's going to take a good year. And, time is money. And the longer it takes for us to get started on doing this process of contacting and interviewing architects and reviewing what was requested of us during the meeting and the warrant article, I mean, everything is gonna be costing more, and I
I
just,
see these things as happening simultaneously. You can be talking to architects and see what their cost says. At the same time, the subcommittee is meeting and given a time frame. I think the reach out to the community is so extremely important to try and get everybody as best possible on the same page. I cannot stress that enough about this village. Let's pull people together. Let's hear from all the sides and come up with the solution or solutions that we can take to this architect. Because the three of you and me and everybody else on this call don't have those answers. We need to broaden it out to the greater community. And whether the civic association helps with it or just a school community center or Katuitt School Youth Study or whatever you want to call it, I think it's really important. And we can also happy to look to the town of Barnstable and ask them what they've been doing recently with Marston's Mills so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel to have these workshops. I just really, I cannot stress that enough about getting the information out there and transparency, and let's bring and engage more people to come to a final conclusion that we can take to these architects that you've interviewed.
I guess my commentary, and maybe this is unduly harsh, but, you know, we've been negotiating this deal for 2.5 years.
3 years.
And the deal closed 6 months ago. And other than organizing a very effective special district meeting article, there doesn't seem to have been any movement, correct me if I'm wrong, by the people who are interested in turning this into some kind of community center in terms of putting a point on it. What is it that you want? Not in the sense of more studies, but in the sense of, yeah, we've talked and this is what we think we should do with the school. That's a question that this committee can effectively grapple with.
You've had 3 years since we started with the school to discuss and discuss people about, demoing the building or having a community center. At the end of the special district meeting, we were asked that you need another year to decide what you want to do. I think that's unfair to this committee. I think that, we have a job to do and we need to get on with it because this just can't hang around forever. Well, we get a consensus of everybody in the building, you're never going to get a consensus.
Patty Bailey has her hand raised.
You might not get a consensus, but you will get more feedback. That the 3 years, we can throw that back at the Prudential. You guys have had 3 years too, that you could have been having these workshops. So,
No. Yeah.
Well, so I think that we should create a timetable. And rather than go back and forth about the nature of what, so we can say that we would like, when's the next time, when do we next reconvene?
We meet the last Monday of this month. We're gonna meet the 27th.
To do our script and everything?
To do our 27th, to do the script.
That's Memorial Day.
Oh, well, it's Memorial Day, weekend is the
Memorial Day.
25th.
But there is a Tuesday before the annual district meeting that you could move your meeting to.
Yeah.
Great, so
So
what,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, rather.
And, and I propose that all these people that, have ideas about what they want to do with the building can come before us at that meeting.
well, what we should, well, yes, I mean, yes and no, I agree, but
I mean, how much
we
more
should
time
ask
do you need
for,
to have?
well, we should ask the representative, we should request that the representative of Katuitt Community Center, Inc., whatever it is, appear here. And that, for that meeting, with something to start working with. And we can determine what our next step is gonna be. In the meantime, Ray or whomever is appropriate can contact we'll reach out to how many? 5 architectural firms with our very vague, very vague statement one that we have there. And picture of the building and say, hey, guys, look, we've got this vague statement, we've got this much money and we've got this building. And get them talking about it so that at least we'll have that ball rolling. And then we can, then at this coming meeting, we can come to something a little bit more concrete because we can ask them to appear with something specific. But I mean, and I don't know, I know you guys read the concept of having a committee, and I, to a certain extent, do in a way also, but that if it's a timeline, and it's a creation and a sunset, and it only lasts a month or 2 months or whatever it is. And does there have to be a representative of our committee on it?
Yes.
So Mark can be the chair of this committee. Sorry, I would chair the committee.
What
if
did
it
I
has
ever
a-
do to you?
No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I would
I didn't joke.
chair the committee if it has a specific sundown time period. And it's and relatively truncated, you know what I mean? Not 6 months, not a year and a half, but 2 months, 3 months.
1
something,
month.
1 month, whatever.
1 month,
So at
2
least
meetings.
to specifically determine what the envelope for whatever service imagined is delivered from that envelope, but in that envelope, to determine the shape and dimension and scope of the envelope. And then we could do all that in a month and then go right into it.
The problem is that they're asking in their article that was on the warrant
Right.
for us to find out what the building can be used for. They're asking,
So in a way, we would if we had an ad hoc committee.
well,
Well, not to be used, but I believe that we can't legally use that building for any other purpose than water and fire. I believe that legally we can lease it to someone who uses it for another purpose.
no.
But you say that, but I don't think that if we went to court, I don't think we would come out, they'd be like, yep, you can't lease that building because we sign an agreement with.
That's
people
what
for
Mark
this
said.
building. Yeah, but I didn't hear him say that exactly. And that's not what I heard. We sign lease agreements with this, no matter how short the term, for whatever purpose people put on a birthday party or a family celebration. Is that illegal for us to do that? Yet we do it on a regular basis?
Yes, because it's in the bylaws.
Right, but it's legal. It couldn't be in the bylaws if it wasn't legal.
Right.
So it's legal for us to lease a piece of property.
We may be a little ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
But you see,
but
I'm just following a number
Yes.
of thought into the.
Yeah.
Patty
I mean,
Bailey would
if,
really like to
if
see.
you wanna
Okay.
honcho that ad hoc committee,
I would, I guess, I could, if you guys really did, I mean, I
I would.
don't despise I mean, I would do it. I'm very busy as it is, but I can do a few meetings. I just think that I don't think that it would be fair to not do something like that, because if you talk about people getting mad about, if we have this and then we just do the bare minimum of whatever it is to get to the point that we want to get to and then say, okay, well, that's it, it's gonna be $5 million. Then people are never gonna forget that either, so.
I think you may be right. I mean, I will take the laboring oar on the architects. And starting to get those lined up. And also, as someone pointed out, we're supposed to be determining the cost of demolition
Demolition,
too.
Right,
Yeah.
so we can put it all together and we'll just write through it. We can have all those eventualities ready.
So, but what are you gonna do after all these people talk and they come up with more ideas?
Then that doesn't matter. People will continue to come up with ideas, but there has to be an outcome. Because there will be a timeline and then there has to be an outcome. Ideas are not gonna be saying, we shall put a daycare, we shall have a rowing class, we shall have a thing. What shape of building do we wanna have, if we were gonna have a building, what would we want it to be?
So that's the only
And
question you're
that's
gonna
the
be
question
asking.
of the committee.
That's the
And
question.
then the question of that committee comes and goes, and then that's what we take to the architects, which hopefully will already have narrowed down what that window, who those people are gonna be. And then we'll be able to, then people can then, if ever such a thing occurred, they can go back and then figure out what you're gonna put in that, because you don't have to know what you're gonna do with it exactly, except that you would like to have this envelope in which to put the thing. Do you see what I'm saying?
I absolutely see what you're saying. I mean, to your point, if they come back with, or to answer Fran's question, if they come back with 43 more ideas, that just means the ad hoc committee has failed.
And then we'll just.
And then-
We'll just do whatever.
But you gave it a try.
But the purpose would be to develop the envelope. That's what I'm thinking.
Patty Daly has been trying to,
Well, we're gonna, deliberative discussion at the moment,
sorry,
but, but I'm done with my part of it. So,
All right, Patty.
Patty?
Thank you. Okay, just a couple of, I guess, corrections. With due respect, I don't anticipate this taking a year, even though one of the committee members states that they think that is what is gonna happen. Secondly, I do still support the creation of the ad hoc committee. I think you can put a time boundary on that. I would hope that we could at least have a conversation before you vote what that time boundary is. Because I think if it's gonna be meaningful, you need to commit to at least a little bit of time to get that done, but it's not gonna take a year. Secondly, the nonprofit, despite prior comment, has never agreed to pay for the cost of demolition of the building. What we've said is, please go through this process, give us the results of this study, and we will come back and tell you how we're gonna raise money and grants and contributions to look at funding the rehab and the operation and maintenance of a potential community center going forward. So I just wanted to clarify those things. Seth, happy to, or community member Burdick, happy to have a conversation with you. Anytime, feel free to reach out, and any and all of you. Thank you.
Patty, I have a question for you. Once, if it's decided that, we're going to, leave, 4 classrooms and the gym, how are you gonna pay to, make that building weather tight? Are you expecting the district to pay to make that building weather tight?
I'm expecting, first and foremost, this has been a chicken and the egg problem from my perspective from the beginning. So I am expecting this reuse study to tell me exactly what it's going to cost to make the building weather tight. I mean, Conrad Geiser's already offered to go in there and do a
I'm sorry.
repair along with his
Conrad
insurance. But at any rate, what I want to understand is the cost of that so I can understand what the nonprofit needs to do to make that happen.
Okay, and just so you know, Conrad cannot work on that building. No volunteers can work on that building. It's a municipal building. We have to hire contractors who have general contracting insurance and that are bonded. Conrad, the only thing Conrad gave me was his workman's comp insurance. But, you know, we can't have people going in there thinking that they can do work on the building. That's just not possible.
There is one comment that highlighted that I made a mistake identifying someone making a comment. And it is, you need to see who is asking the questions. Catherine asked about the language of the article, not Kathleen O'Neill. Catherine doesn't have a last name, so I don't know. Sorry if I misspoke. That's it. That's the end of the chats. And yes, Carol Zace has raised her hand again.
Okay. Yes, Carol.
Sorry, I want to put my face on. I'm not sure I can actually tie into where I was, but I think we're getting really close to what I believe the community would respond well to with the offers of Patty, myself, and others. With a committee, whether it's run by Seth or Fran or Mark, you know, with a timeline to come up with what, as Commissioner Burdick, I guess, said about give us the design, give us the functionality of the building that you think would be needed, and we get pricing on that. And then I keep saying, give us the functionality of what the park is going to look at as part of a demolition. If it's a demolition is where the fire district goes on this next go round. So I mean, we want to just lay it all out for everybody. And if you guys need our contact information, please let us know. So we can get this going. Thank you.
Just so you know, restoring the site after it's demolished, filling in the hole, putting in loam, and growing grass would be part of the demolition process. That's pretty general right there.
Need to address the items that Ray raised if we're off this topic. The funding, or is that something we're gonna address at the next Prudential
I
committee?
think we address that at the next, the options are becoming more limited. And particularly if you were to withdraw that article, that changes some of the things, but I've used all the free cash, so I don't, the only thing that the use of some of the stabilization funds.
Okay, but
What are we talking about funding here exactly?
Ray sent an email about a week ago about how to fund certain items, but it sounds like we should address that at our next
Yes.
Prudential committee.
I saw that, but I didn't.
I'll try to identify specific questions.
Okay. Table that for now then.
So. So,
Anything else?
no, I think we need to, I think at some point make a policy that, once this building is demolished, any work that's done on it has to be by general contractors with the GC, general contracting, license, insurance, bonded, et cetera, et cetera. Can't be somebody from, local handyman going in there to do anything. So I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I didn't even know, I didn't put the pen on here.